Tonight, President Mahama issues a 48-hour deadline for government appointees to declare assets or be sacked.
For all those who are appointed or nominated before 31st March 2025 and fail to meet the deadline, you are to forfeit 3 months of salary to be donated to the Ghana Medical Trust Fund, named after me, Mahama Cares.
And the ministers who have already failed have forfeited that 3-month salary. He has unveiled a new code of conduct for his appointees. We'll hear from the former Auditor General, who first demanded that the ministers who failed to declare their assets be sacked. Also tonight, minority in Parliament and civil society organizations are demanding updates on the health status of Vice President Professor Opoku Agyeman, who has been off duty for at least 5 weeks.
I don't know what the protocol is with government, but I think it would be better to tell us exactly what's the situation really.
We have a reason to know how she's doing, and then also when she returns to work.
Also tonight, National Security launches an investigation into an alleged armed takeover of a licensed mining site in Adanse, North Ashanti region. Reports suggest the gun-wielding men involved may have been acting on state directives.
4 days ago, I got a call from many people, in fact, the chief of the area and other people, asking me to investigate why national security will take over that mine with people with pump-action guns parading and mining.
We'll hear from the Ashanti Regional Minister, who has assured a thorough probe into the allegations in business.
Banking consultant Dr. Richmond Etuayen advises government to clear road sector debt owed state-owned banks to reduce rising non-performing loans.
And in sports, Ghana's Black Satellites face Senegal in their second group game, looking to go top of Group C of the ongoing Under-20 AFCON.
Stay with us here on News Night for sports, business, or later. Plus your comments, 05511119997. Details after this. And you're live here on News Night. It's on Joy 99.7 FM. In our far series later.
At my own, I've insured my shop. I have a fire extinguisher. Everything is in place. Yes.
Lessons from victims of the dummy market fires who are recovering gradually from their losses. They appeal to government to fulfill its age-old financial promise to help them bounce back fully. That's later. For now, though, President John Mahama has given government appointees who failed to declare their assets by the March 31st deadline 48 hours to comply, or they will be sacked. Those who miss the deadline will also forfeit 3 months' salaries, which will be donated to the Mahama Cares Initiative Fund supporting healthcare development. Now, President Mahama unveiled a new code of conduct for government appointees prohibiting the gifts and favors from individuals or entities with interest in government decisions. Sanctions for non-compliance range from public apologies to dismissal. Presidential Affairs correspondent Maxwell Abagba joins us right now with details of this. Maxwell, we know an RTI request filed by the Fourth Estate details the government appointees who missed the deadline. Who are they, and what did the president say about them? We don't have Maxwell in line. Maxwell will join us pretty shortly. He's been there for us. He has the very latest for us on this major developing story tonight, with the president cracking the whip on his appointees who have failed to comply with his own directive to them to declare their assets. Two things will happen to them. Already, they are losing 3 months' salary. And also, we know tonight they have 48 hours to comply, or they will face the sack. Maxwell is joining me on the line right now. And the president was speaking directly about a few of his appointees who the Fourth Estate had detailed failed to comply. And Maxwell, tell us, which appointees are these?
Well, Evans, so according to the Fourth Estate, from the RTI request that they filed, some notable names on the list of those yet to declare their assets include Presidential Advisor on the Economy, Seth Tepe, Director of Operations at the Presidency, Nathan Kofi-Boakye, Director of the National Investigations Bureau, Charles Kipo, Special Envoy to the Alliance of Sahelian States, like Volati. Another name was mentioned, but that deputy minister has come out to say that he's already declared his assets. So I'll not mention his name. We have a deputy minister of roads and highways, Al Hassan Suhini, and then Deputy Minister of Food and Agriculture, John Dumelo. So these are the notable names according to the RTI request filed by the fourth estate. Now, the president says government appointees who fail to declare their assets by Wednesday, 7th May 2025, 48 hours from now, they should count themselves automatically dismissed.
On the 18th February 2025, I set a deadline of 31st March 2025 for all appointees who are taking office or being nominated at the time to declare their assets. An update provided by the Auditor General to my office indicates that some of you failed to meet that. For all those who are appointed or nominated before the 1st March 2025 and failed to meet the deadline, you are to forfeit 3 months of salary to be donated to the Ghana Medical Trust Fund, named after me, Mahama Cares. In addition to 1 month's salary that I've asked appointees to donate to the Mahama Cares Trust Fund. So it means that those who omitted to declare assets by the date, you are paying 4 months' salary to Mahama Cares. However, if by close of day Wednesday, 7th May 2025, any of you still fails to declare your assets, count yourself automatically dismissed. The assets declaration regime is an important mechanism to check corruption and abuse of office, and it must be respected by all.
And Maxwell, this forms part of a major crackdown or simply misconduct in government circles and among government appointees, because today, board a new code of conduct.
Yes, Evan. So he unveiled a new code of conduct, and in there are clear guidelines to government appointees. And the president was very clear that anybody who goes contrary to some of these, goes contrary to the directives in the code of conduct will be dismissed. Now, for instance, there's one prohibiting government appointees from accepting gifts or favors, especially from companies or individuals with an interest in governmental decisions. That is an outright, ban. Now, for high-value gifts, if a gift received during official duties exceeds 20,000 Ghana cedis, it must be declared, and unless permitted by the president, it has to be surrendered upon leaving office. Now, the code also forbids the use of government funds, including internally generated funds, for hampers or gift items, except for small gifts, for staff recognizing excellence or their retirement.
Number 4, gifts and hampers. We all know our cultural fondness for gifts, but we must now draw a clear line between appreciation and influence. Appointees are prohibited from accepting gifts or favors, especially from companies or individuals with interest in governmental decisions. If a gift is received during an official engagement and its estimated value exceeds 20,000 Ghana cedis, it must be declared. And upon leaving office, the gift must be surrendered unless expressly permitted to retain it by the president. As for hampers and gift items, no government funds, including internally generated funds, are to be used to purchase or distribute hampers. The only exception is modest gifts to staff as a reward for excellence or retirement. For government entities that must distribute hampers or gifts as part of their corporate commercial policy, express permission for the budgeted expenditure must be received from the Office of the Chief of Staff.
And Maxwell, what will happen to government appointees who attempt to purchase state assets?
Now, no political appointee state assets, land, vehicles, or shares, directly or indirectly. Those who flout this directive will be sacked. Now, let me also add that the bill about the gifts and hampers, in line with President Mahama's the newly unveiled code of conduct, 2 vehicles he had received as gifts were donated to the state today, and the 2 vehicles were brought to the presidency and were handed over to the state.
When you say vehicles, what type of vehicles are we talking about?
So 4-wheel drives, and I'm told they are electric vehicles that were donated today, who were called outside, and then a presentation was done outside on the compound of the Junior House.
Do we know who donated these vehicles to him?
That we do not know yet.
Particular matter, though, considering how this became such a central issue when they were in opposition, and particularly the Foreign Affairs Minister, Samuel Okudzeto Blakwa himself, was on this beat, talking about government officials buying state assets. Did he quite specify the penalty for those who violate this particular directive in the Code of Conduct that no government official can buy state assets?
Yes. Aside from that, punitive measures ranging from public apology to dismissal are all stated, in the Code of Conduct, and it's not limited to the purchase of state assets, land, vehicles, or shares. It is also not limited with just gifts, receiving gifts, or hampers, or not declaring your assets. We are told that it's a document that would soon be uploaded on the website of the presidency. But these are just some of the important parts of it, some of the notable ones. And we are told that any government appointee who goes contrary to some of the things stated in that document, punitive measures range from public apology to the dismissal from office.
Prohibition on purchasing state assets. No political appointee under this administration is permitted to purchase state assets, whether land, vehicles, shares, or buildings, directly or indirectly. If you attempt to do so and you are found out, your appointment will be terminated. We are here to protect the national interest, not to help ourselves to the national purse. Sanctions for violation. The code sets out consequences for breach, public apology, from public apology to reprimand, to suspension, to resignation, or ultimately termination. Let me assure you that these sanctions are not cosmetic, they will be enforced, and I will not hesitate to act firmly and decisively no matter who is involved. Kindly do not put me in a position where I have to make that drastic choice, because when it comes to protecting the integrity of this government, I will not compromise. Citizen engagement and reporting. Accountability does not end at the walls of this room and in just one code of conduct. I invite the citizens of Ghana to play a role in monitoring compliance of this code. A portal will be created for the public to report suspected breaches with guarantees of confidentiality and impartial investigation. Ladies and gentlemen, what we launched today is more than a code. It is a declaration of intent. It is the foundation of a new ethos in public service, one that values ethics over expediency, duty over indulgence, country over self. We're here to serve and will serve with honor.
I want to bring in Daniel Demelevo. He's a former Auditor General, joins us on the line right now via Zoom. Mr. Demelevo, give me your reaction to the President's decision tonight. One, to take away the salaries of those appointees who fail to comply with his directive to declare their assets, 3 months worth of salaries, and then also they have a 48-hour ultimatum to declare the assets or they'll be sacked. You asked for a sacking, but if you're giving 48 hours, satisfied?
Very satisfied. And Evans, let me say that I'm very happy hearing what the president has done or is doing. For the first time in the history of our constitution, the assets and liabilities declaration is being taken serious. And Mensa, if you remember, I've said time and again that whenever there are no consequences for misbehavior, impunity takes over. And I am very happy that the president has sanctioned the people involved and he's ready to put in additional sanctions. I think it is in the right direction. I called for outright dismissal, but well, he has tempered justice with mercy. And he didn't stop there. He said, if you misbehave again, or if you do me again, the ultimate may happen. You may be sent home. So I thumbs high or kudos to His Excellency the President. I think this is a good move.
They are forfeiting 3 months' salary. Is that enough?
It is. You know, in the past, what happened? It is just like go and sin no more. You remember that former government appointees, including Chief Justice and Electoral Commissioner and high-profile officers, they were only told go and declare, and that was it. Nothing happened. At least losing a month's salary, I think, is significant enough. These are 3 months' salaries, and I think it is good. And I cannot fault the president in any way, but to say that he should ensure it is done so that people would take the provision in the constitution for granted any longer.
And I've just been joined by the official government spokesperson, Felix Kwachifosu, joins us on the line right now. And Felix, I presume this has already been communicated formally to the affected ministers, but have the monies been deducted already? We know that the month just ended. Have they already lost that month's salary? I'm talking about the month of April.
Well, all the appointees were present today, including the defaulters, when the president made a statement. So there's no doubt about the fact that they know what sanctions have been imposed on them. The second point is that the deductions will commence as and when the salaries of appointees are paid. You know that there's often a bit of a delay between the time that people start working and when they start getting paid. So once they start getting paid, it will be deducted as source, and it will go to the Mahama fund.
What has been the reaction among, because you are a minister yourself, from what I get, clarify, have you declared your assets already?
So I did. I did so on the 3rd of March.
And you did so obviously because your boss says do it, and they gave you the deadline and you complied fully.
Oh, not necessarily. I know that it is something that I have to do anyway, so I was minded to doing it. Yeah.
Among your ranks, among your colleagues, what has been the chatter since the president made this public?
Well, I know that those who are affected will feel the pinch. No doubt about it, because losing 4 months' salary is no child's play. But that goes to show the level of seriousness that the president attaches to the compliance with the asset declaration law. Those who are affected, well, it's a bit unfortunate, but I think that there's no excuse that can be made, bearing in mind that the president had given sufficient time for this to be done.
I mean, the likes of the former Auditor General Damevo had asked that they should be sacked. There should be an outright dismissal because, in first place, they ignore the president's directive and the deadline. Why is the president giving them 48 hours to comply?
When the president set the deadline, he was clear that they will face sanctions, including dismissal, which then means that there were other sanctions apart from dismissal. As a first step, the president has said that they are going to lose 4 months' salary. He also says that if by close of today or Wednesday they do not comply with his directive, then they are going to be dismissed. So the president will escalate the sanctions regime in the event that they don't meet the deadline that he has set now.
I mean, a very important question then arises about the 4 months' salaries that they will forfeit. Where is the transparency and accountability in there for us citizens to determine that indeed the 4 months' salaries have indeed been withheld and paid into the Mahama cares?
Well, something, I beg your pardon, Evans. I don't see why you should doubt that this will be done. First of all, the appointees don't pay themselves, so they do not control the payment of salaries. Payment of salaries for public officials are done from the Controller and Accountant General's Department. So all that needs to happen is for word to be sent to Controller to deduct the payment as source and remit same to the Ghana Medical Trust Fund. So there's no question.
The bigger picture, because today he also adored the code of conduct, and he chose, of course, that forum to put out this particular point. He's sounding a very tough tone about, well, if you do not comply with the dictates of the code of conduct, ultimately people will have to go home. But here's the thing. I mean, it's made us cynical as citizens. We've heard a president before say that if you want to make money, get away from my government, and this is not where you make money for your private pockets. And we know what happened down the line. The corruption perception index alone showed that it got worse over time, not better. Isn't this another sheer bluster by a president who is in his first few months in office and wants to win us over by telling us all the things he plans to do to his appointees who violate the code of conduct?
Well, this is no bluster. And also, the corruption perception index proved, at least under President Mahama, proved to be far better than anything that came after him. You also do know that corruption in the public sector goes beyond just appointees. So perceptions in other sections of government, including the judiciary, including the police service, even parliament, can lead to poor performance. But the president means business, and it's the reason why he has publicly announced these sanctions and set yet another tough deadline, which he is going to enforce in the event that people continue to default. So the Ghanaian people can rest assured that the president is going to act on his word, and he has demonstrated that today.
So in 48 hours, and I know the president said he asked the Auditor General to give him a brief on the ministers and appointees who have declared and those who haven't. Was he reacting, in all honesty, keeping him honest, to the Fourth Estate disclosure?
No, he wasn't. What it is that, in fact, when he first set the deadline, it applied to those who had been appointed or nominated before 31st March. If someone was appointed after 31st March, it is not reasonable to expect that he will be affected by that deadline. After that deadline, I know that the Fourth Estate published that some people had defaulted. Even that publication came under some scrutiny because it turned out that some of the names that they mentioned were people who had actually declared their assets and they had proof of it. And you recall that they themselves had to do some form of apology to those people who were erroneously mentioned in their story. It was important that we get the full facts and we are able to reconcile and determine who was in default and who had complied. So the president was not reacting to the Fourth Estate story, not at all. He was simply carrying through with the directive that he had issued to his appointees.
This code of conduct that was outdoor today, all of you will have to sign that you comply with it?
No, there's no signing, but it is binding. Everybody will be sent with a copy. It will also be published on the presidency's website, so it will be available to members of the public also. But anybody who defaults on any of the provisions would have themselves to blame.
And the previous government started a public officers code of conduct bill that I believe went to cabinet and was planned to go to parliament, but never quite did. This has no force of law backing it. Have you abandoned that move, or you tend to turn this particular code of conduct into one that will be passed by parliament to have the bite of law?
Well, it is true that the code of conduct that was launched today does not have the force of law. It does not mean then that the work that began earlier under the previous government would be abandoned. But even in its current form, anybody who violates it will find out to their chagrin that the president would act to enforce the provisions in the code of conduct.
But for this to become a blueprint, not only for the John Mahama administration, but from subsequent administrations, regardless of which party it is, isn't it better to take this to parliament and pass it into law?
Well, it is not something that we disagree with. It is not something that we are opposed to doing. But as a first step, people need to know what they can do and cannot do in government. And if you are made aware of what the do's and don'ts are and what the rules are, and you violate it, the hammer will come down hard on you, as the president intimated this afternoon.
Thank you very much. And I still have with me Daniel Damalevo, who is a former Auditor General. Mr. Damalevo, so the point we've just had explained there is that the money should be deducted at source. And I asked a question about, for our citizens, how do we get convinced that indeed it has been deducted? Because of previously when governments have told us that ministers are forfeiting salaries, there isn't an accountability process that then comes back to us to give us the evidence that indeed it has happened. How important is that this is built into this particular one?
Well, I have no reason to doubt the president and to also doubt that the directive will be carried out. However, if you are looking for transparency, we can easily track it. Mind you, the money is supposed to be paid to an institution, and that institution will prepare their annual or monthly or quarterly accounts. and that accounts will show us whether they received money from some defaulting ministers or government appointees. So, and again, anybody who is interested can actually ask the auditor accountant general to provide evidence that the money has been paid, because when there is a payment going to be made, there are documents which will support it, that it has been transferred from the salaries account to somebody's account. So accountant general can confirm that. But in addition to that, we can also get the financial statement of the institution to which the money is going to be paid. But let me quickly say that I am happy about what has happened, but I will wish that the code of conduct that is being launched, we rather pass the conduct of public office holders bill, so that it should not be that when His Excellency the President leaves the scene, another person comes and say that, look, I don't regard or I don't recognize any of these things. So passing them into law will be very good. And I must conclude by saying that I am very happy. Kudos to the President. I have nothing to say against what he has done. I think that is the type of leadership we need as a country.
Thank you very much, Daniel Demelovo, former Auditor General. I have with me Dr. Tanko Rashid Computer. He is the CEO of the Ghana Investment Fund for Electronic Communications. Joins us on the line. He is one of those government appointees, of course, who was directed earlier to declare their assets. Let me ask him if he did. Dr. Rashid, did you declare your assets when you were first directed to do so by the President?
Yes, Evans, let me say good evening to you and your cherished listeners. I filed my long things. When I got my appointment, within 2 weeks, I went and filed my assets with the auditor.
So you're obviously not caught by this.
Oh, no. I mean, I filed my long things. I mean, as soon as the President told us that as soon as you get your appointment, go prepare and file your auditor. I think we're the pioneers to file our assets declaration.
But today you also have a code of conduct that you must now fully comply with. Failing to do that, you will face consequences, including taking gifts. You can't take any gifts above 20,000 CDs, and if anybody hands you that, you have to declare to the President. He's the only man who can give you permission to take that gift.
Yes, I think it's a welcome news for appointees of His Excellency. It's a welcome news, and it's also exciting news to be a Ghanaian at this time. I mean, this code will regulate the way we operate in our offices and in our public life. I mean, it's high time we began to know that a lot of things are going on that Ghanaians are watching and measuring the lifestyle of every appointee. And so we must comply strictly to the code, and so that they will continue to have confidence in the democracy we are running. I mean, that's what I'm saying. It's an exciting time to have His Excellency John Dramani as the President of this country, because he wants Ghanaians to continue to have that confidence that, look, we shouldn't give up and say, no, what happened in the past 8 years, they are throwing their hands in despair and say democracy is for the dogs, because people, he came and said, if you want to make money, go to the private sector, don't be in my government. But they end up opening bank accounts in their offices and their rooms. This is not the government of His Excellency John Dramani who will go that tangent. He meant what he's saying, and that's why they put it on record that, look, if you go against the code of conduct that he has put up publicly, you will suffer it.
Okay, and that there's Dr. Rashid Tanko Computer, is the CEO of Ghana Investment Fund for Electronic Communications, accepting the new code of conduct that has now been introduced. I still have with me the official government spokesperson, Felix Kwachifos. Felix, today at the launch, the president also, from what we've just heard from our reporter, also showed to the public 2 vehicles that had been donated to him, a gift that he's received. He declared the gifts, and he donated it to a good cause. Do we know who donated those vehicles?
Hello?
Yes, Felix, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, do we know who donated those vehicles, gifted those vehicles to him today, that he declared and donated it to a good cause?
It's a firm that sells Chinese cars. But
the president is fully aware of the requirements of law, and therefore, once he received them, he knew that they exceeded a certain threshold, so he could not keep them, and therefore he needed to declare and hand them over to the state, which is precisely what he did. And I had the honor of doing so on his behalf this afternoon.
And so those vehicles are with agency now?
I gave them to the chief of staff.
The chief of staff.
So I'm sorry to be put in the government pool. Yes.
And very quickly, once I have you on, today civil society had asked for an update on the whereabouts of the vice president. Where is she and when is she coming back to work?
It is not clear to me which civil society you are talking about.
Imani,
so
Imani
in the interest of transparency, please name them.
Yes, Imani's president, Franklin Kujo, for example, made this comment a short while ago to us on it.
First of all, let's get it straight. Everybody falls ill. And it's important that at least people are given the space to heal, right? The only problem here, or the only issue here, too, is that because these are public offices, many people are invested in knowing exactly what the state of things are with the vice president. And I think it's from for some people, it's from a place of just well wishing, right? I mean, these are well wishers who want to know. I don't know what the protocol is with government, but I think it would be better, really, to tell us exactly what the situation really is. I don't.
Yeah, so can you tell him what the situation really is as we speak tonight?
But Evan, there have been multiple updates on this matter. I first issued a statement. Nobody had asked a question about the vice president when I issued a statement to inform the Ghanaian public that she had been taken ill. She had sought treatment locally. Her doctors had advised that she get a second opinion. I've actually publicly stated that she is in the UK to seek further treatment, and that after the treatment she was resting and will be back soon. No less a person than the president himself has on 2 occasions given updates about the status of the vice president. So I'm surprised to hear someone say that no update has been given, and therefore there should be further updates.
The use of the word soon, I guess, is what the clarity is being sought. When you say soon, do we have a clear picture when exactly?
Evan, it is the doctors who will determine when somebody is free to leave their supervision. Once they do that, they may recommend a period of rest. Once that period is over, she will come back. The president has said this publicly. So I'm not sure that there is anything to worry about really in this matter.
Is she in the country though?
She's not in the country. She's in the United Kingdom. I've said this publicly.
And you know, when you're not well and you're under doctor's care, they tend to also be very specific. 2 weeks, 3 weeks, they can specify.
But they may say so. But if they determine that they need to keep you under observation for a bit longer, they are entitled to do so.
So you're waiting now on the doctors to clear her to begin work?
Yeah, that's when they think that it is okay for her to come. I'm sure they will give the green light and she will do that. But I know for a fact that she is well.
Thank you very much. That there is the government spokesperson, Felix Kwachifusi there, and that's him giving us an update on the whereabouts of the vice president. He says she is currently in the US still, and they're waiting for the doctors to give her the all-clear, clean bill of health for her to resume work, and once that happens, you will see her back at work here in Accra. Still listening to News 90s on Joy 99.7 FM. And by the way, talking about forfeiting salaries, the ministers and James Ishan is joining me with business. And business, you love numbers.
Exactly.
So ministers are paid 32,000 cedis a month. So 3 months that they're now forfeiting. This is for violating the president's directive to them to declare their assets. That's 96,000.
Yeah, 960,000 actually.
Say that again.
32.
Yes. Times 3.
Yeah, okay.
Yes. So that's 96,000 CDs. Plus, they have an additional month that you have to donate already to the Ghana Care. So if you put that together, that is well over 100, and I believe 128,000, 126,000 CDs. So that's a lot of money.
Yeah, that's a lot
so
of money.
128,000 CDs for 4 months that they are now going to lose.
Yeah, almost 130.
A very important question is, how do you survive without salary for 4 months.
Well, probably have their side businesses, which of course we don't know. We have no idea.
That in itself, some may say, actually now setting them up to be corrupted, because if you can earn a living for 4 months, you have to find a way around that.
They have a side gig that is actually legal.
Well,
that's also a question to ask.
There are very strict rules around working for the state and also having your side gigs. Listen, but I want to hear from you on that very quickly. 055-1111-997. What do you have in the headlines?
Well, so coming up in business this evening, banking consultant Dr. Richmond Etiahine advises government to clear road sector debt owed state-owned banks to reduce the rising non-performing loans, and stakeholders in oil and gas industry cautions government could miss a revenue target from oil export following World Bank's projection of prices may drop significantly this year. Business news on Newsnight is brought to you by MTN Business. Welcome to the new world of business. Kingdom Books and Stationery, your number one stop shop for all office essentials, Syntex tanks, and Pepsodent Herbal and Charcoal. Welcome back to Business on Newsnight. My name is James Ishan. Let's settle for the details now. And banking consultant Dr. Richmond Etiahine has disclosed that most state banks are struggling from non-performing loans due to government inability to pay loans acquired to construct roads. He expressed worry the situation could bring some state banks on their knees if immediate steps are not taken to reverse the trend. He spoke to Joy Business after Fetch Solutions' recent publications, which showed that Ghana's banking sector is vulnerable with a high non-performing loan ratio of 21.8% and a capital adequacy ratio of 14%.
Let me make it clear to Ghanaians. Any country with no more than 10% non-performing, your banking sector is in crisis. It's not even vulnerable. It's in crisis. And Ghana has been in crisis since 2015 up to this year. We should make a conscious effort that contractors have to be paid in order to reduce the non-performing of the banks. I'm going to tell you, there's one bank currently, not the NIB. There's another bank which is having 72% non-performing. One of the state banks currently is 72% out of 100 are non-performing. And these non-performing are basically on the local banks, including the state-owned banks, maybe minus GCB. All the rest are having a serious non-performing.
Dr. Richmond Etiahine is a banking consultant. Now, research lead at GCB Bank PLC, Karij Boti, has projected decline in inflation and lending rate following Fetch Solutions forecast of a fall in interest rate. He highlighted that this development will support the business community in creating the necessary jobs for society. He made these remarks in an interview with Joy Business.
Government is looking at 11.9% inflation. BOG is looking at 12% inflation. We've seen CD stable, in fact, correcting to some large extent. All of these bode well for rates to come down, because what it means is that the cost of input to be lower for most of these entities, the cost of funds to be lower for banks, and then there will be the appetite to invest more. And given the liquidity in the system and the need for banks, especially when T-bill rates are plummeting and there are no options on the market, banks, if they see correction in the macroeconomy and confidence returning, will be inclined to expanding their loan books, and they would have to compete for prices, really. And that is where the interest rates will begin to come down. It's a matter of time inflation will follow suit, and we'll begin to see maybe some sharp decline in lending rates across the curve, which will now support the business community to create the needed jobs for the society.
Karij Boti is a research lead at GCB Capital. Now to one of our lead stories. The World Bank's projection indicating that crude oil prices could average $64 per barrel in 2025 may negatively affect expected revenue from the commodity this year. That is the view of the Center for Environmental Management and Sustainable Energy. The World Bank in its April 2025 commodity market outlook disclosed that the projection for this year is lower compared to the $80.7 per barrel in 2024. Speaking to Joy Business, the executive director for the Center for Environmental Management and Sustainable Energy, Benjamin Insia, said there is the urgent need to attract new exploration companies into the country to increase oil production.
Unfortunately for us, I think that if you look at our budget, we projected that we're going to sell our crude at $74 per barrel. But today, we are being told that averagely, especially in the second half of 2025, price of these products are likely going to be around $60 per barrel, which is going to be about 20% shortfall when it comes to the output and the price of the product. Now, in recent times, I think the last 6 or 7 years, price of these products have not been, the output of this product, that is crude, has not been favorable to Ghana. If you look at 2019, we're producing somewhere 71 million barrels a year. But as of last year, we are now doing 48 million barrels with a decline of about averagely 7.4%. So crude output is on a decline, yes.
Benjamin Isia is Executive Director for the Center for Environmental Management and Sustainable Energy Next. As part of effort to reduce the cost of doing business in the commercial shipping sector, the Chief Executive Officer of the Ghana Shippers Authority, Professor Ransford Jampo, has held talks with air freight stakeholders at the Kochuka International Airport. The engagement included a meeting with the management of the Ghana Airport Company Limited to harmonize cargo charges. Professor Jampo paid a working visit to the offices of Aviance Ghana and Swissport Ghana.
The Ghana Shippers Authority exists to protect the interest of shippers. So here we are talking about the many charges that are slapped on the kinds of things that they try to ship. And then our new law mandates us to be able to look at those charges and to negotiate their downward review.
Professor Jampo is the Chief Executive Officer of the Ghana Shippers Authority. And that's all for Business on Newsnight with me, James Evans.
Thank you very much, James. And Mr. Cranton is here with the latest on the world of sports. Cranton, can you survive without salary for 4 months?
It'll be tough. It'll be very tough.
But bottom line, you will survive.
Yeah, well.
How will you survive?
Savings.
Oh, you got to rely on your savings.
Yeah.
Now you have money. You save for 4 months. Plus, okay, that's good. I want to be a sports journalist then.
It will alter my lifestyle also, obviously.
How do you have the headline?
Let's go into straight into the stories where Ghana's Black Satellites, they lead defending champion Senegal by a goal to nil at halftime in their second group game of the ongoing Under-20 AFCON. Winger Emmanuel Mensah scored the only goal of the first half after being set up by Jerry Afriyie. Ghana could go top of Group C with a win depending on goal difference after DR Congo beat Central African Republic 3-1 in the group's other game earlier today. Moving on, the president of the Ghana Olympic Committee, Richard Appoku, has stressed on the importance of planning ahead for the next Olympic Games in Los Angeles. According to him, the committee is putting works in place to make sure that Ghana has adequate preparation ahead of LA 2028.
Is that we want to plan properly. Now, after our retreat in the end of May, what we want to come out with is with a clear plan. So that starting from the last quarter of this year, we have a clear plan as to what we want to do for the Athletics Federation, for the Boxing Federation, for the Taekwondo, Judo, and everything. And this is going to involve what are the sports that we are prioritizing, we want to support, because we're going to use performance to determine how we are going to do this. Some of the federations will have to qualify first. How can we support them? And what is the likelihood that they can qualify based upon past performance and based upon their route to qualification? There are some that will be more difficult than others.
You had President of the Ghana Olympic Committee, Richard Appoku, bring that into sports. Back to you, Evans.
Thank you very much. I'll share your thoughts with the rest of the world pretty shortly. Many of you sharing messages with us on the big story tonight. The President giving 48 hours to his appointees who have failed to declare their assets, or they will be sacked. Also already, those who already failed to meet that 31st March deadline, they will forfeit 3 months of their salaries. In fact, 4 months, because there's an additional month they have to donate their salaries to the Mahama Cares program. They're now going to be forfeiting 3 additional months because they failed to comply with its directive. I want to hear your thoughts or share that with the rest of the world pretty shortly. Now, in the latest episode of the Fire series, James Avaji reports from the dummy market, where traders having endured at least 5 devastating fires in the past decade are now taking proactive steps to protect their businesses. After suffering heavy losses, they are recovering and implementing safety measures like installing fire extinguishers and ensuring their shops to guard against future disasters.
This was in 2018 when fire swept through tens of shops in the Domi market in the late hours of January 31, 2018.
Fire gutted portions of the market. 15 containers, we understand, have been affected. As you can see, the fire service is here to douse the flame.
What was left behind the next day was ashes of traders' hard-earned investments. Elvis Nyako and Martha Ahi, also known as Mamiefia, were some victims of this incident.
I sell children and unisex clothing. I had 4 bales of clothes I hadn't even opened. Everything got burnt. I didn't even pick a single shirt.
It was roughly around 800,000 thereabout.
About 800,000 Ghanas.
Yes. It's not easy. Still, I'm still paying, and they are still giving me pressure, but I'm on it.
As the fire victims here continue to hold on to hope for help to come someday, happenings of the past events have at least taught them to take destiny into their own hands.
At my own, I've insured my shop. I have a fire extinguisher. Everything is in place. Yes.
We are scared, but there isn't much we can do. Instead of bringing all our goods to the market, we now bring only a portion just in case. We are now measured in the quantity of goods we store at the market.
But even in the face of the disappointment, they still need this help desperately.
We need help. That's what I can say, because we don't know whether another thing will happen again. We are praying that no, it won't happen. But now, still, we are still in need. We need help. Maybe I'm speaking for everybody, because I hear people talking. They are still, because people went for loan. You'll be here, they'll come, and they need their money, and people are not paying. So we need help. Even if 5% or whatever percent, it's to help us.
But till then, they are still rebuilding, hoping not to revisit the dark days again. From the Domi market here in Accra, I'm James Savage reporting for Joy News.
They once destroyed the very rivers that sustained their communities, digging deep for gold in a trade they now call a mistake. Now in universities, illegal miners, some of them barely out of their teens, are speaking out. Not with pride, but with regret. 2 of them, a 24-year-old and 27-year-old university students, opens up to Joy News' Mohammed Nuruddin about life shaped by Galamsey, the mysterious deaths of close friends, and their new mission to right the wrongs of the past.
On the 14th of October 2016, I lost both my parents. They were catering of my education. So when I lost them, I have nobody to cater care of. So I need to link myself to Galamsey so that I can able to continue with my education. That is the reason why I'm trying to Galamsey.
They dug for gold in silence. But now their voices are breaking the silence with regret. For years, these young men survived through illegal mining, popularly known as Galamsey. 24-year-old Yao Atta, not his real name, is now a university student, but he says the money that paid for his education was shooked in mad and mystery. Several of his friends died under strange and unexplainable circumstances while working at illegal mining sites.
A lot of my friends lost their lives. Some of them turned into drug abuse, a lot of child trafficking, prostitution. Some of them even fell sick and they cannot work again.
Now studying Bachelor of Education in Early Childhood, Yao is not just turning away from Galamsey, he is hoping to lead the campaign against it.
Deeply regret for that, because when I sit down to realize what we are doing at the Galamsey sectors, for the next 10 years to come, our children, how to even get water to drink will be a problem. And if I'm able to get support from NGOs, I think I'll be very happy. And also be a member to be campaigning against Galamsey activities. I will be very proud about it.
Yao is not alone. Here is 27-year-old Kojo Majid, not his real name. He's a third-year BSc Electricals and Electronics Engineering student.
It used to rain and it's totally different. This thing is also called by the trees that we have been cutting down and the land that we have been destroying.
From polluters to protectors, these young Ghanaians want to rewrite their stories. With support, they say they can become part of the solution. A report by Mohammed Nouruddin.
And a few of your messages on our WhatsApp console. Nana Kwamwa says, please, President Mahama, you promised us that you will protect our democracy. Please save our judiciary by reversing this suspension of our Chief Justice, Her Ladyship Gertrude Tokonu. And Ajiboy in Akachi says, thumbs up to President Mahama. Indeed, His Excellency the President has shown that he is in charge. The days when Ghanaians took presidential directives for granted are over. Major One in Kumasi says, frankly speaking, President Mahama does not deserve any commendation. And this one has no name but says, Evans, let's get serious and list the names of these public appointees and the positions they occupy and the amounts involved. They receive huge undocumented allowances, rent, etc. The president should be clear and not discretionary. He adds that Jeff says this is the reason their assets declared should be made public, so we know the kind of work they have privately besides their public work. How can one go hungry for 4 months? I'm sure this is going to open up for corruption, he says there. And wish to admonish the president wish to, I believe, commend the president for the swift action on the government appointees who have not declared their assets. He should continue to crack the whip on appointees who fall short. And a final one says, Evans, I used to also wonder how on earth anyone could live without his salaries for 4 months until I became a journalist in a certain media brand. Well, I dare say I have a good guess the media brand you're talking about, but that's one another time. My name is Evans Benson. Enjoy the rest of your